Hey guys, welcome back to the Premier Star League. I'm trying a little bit of a different format here as we enter into the round of 4. We've already completed that round of 8, and we'll take a look after this prize pool screen at exactly what the bracket is looking at right now. But thank you very much to everyone for the feedback. There's definitely a lot of opinions going every which way. We'll see if this can be something that, I can get a clean feed of eventually, or, I'm going to try a few other things as well. I definitely can't get the clean feed for this original season, so that's not going to happen. Anyways, taking a look here, you can see our 2 matches here in the round of 4. Somun Ji-hoon, aka ZeloT, going up against Kim Ji-sung, who is Royal. That is an amazing match. On the other side, Kim Byung-soo, who's Art User, against Jang Yun-chul, which is Snow. Yeah, this is a couple of really great matches between these two. And then there will be a 3rd, 4th place match, as well as a finals. A thank you to the guy who was impressed that I could pronounce the names correctly. I lived in Korea for over 14 years, so hopefully I can at least do that. Anyways, yeah, this is the bracket, and it's a great showing for round 1 of season 1 of the Premier Star League. Yeah, I mean, these are amazing matches. Art User, less well known. I'm glad to see him actually performing well in a tournament, because I know that he plays so much. He is an actual pro gamer. It's kind of like nowadays the way that it's kind of measured is if you were on a pro team before as an actual pro gamer, or if you've made it to ACS finals or into an ASL. Basically, all that qualifies you as a pro gamer right now. It's not written in stone, but that's basically what it is. Okay, so here is our map pool: Neodark Origin, Radion, Vermeer, Apocalypse, and Polypoid. A great map pool. Once again, we've seen Neodark Origin vetoed every single time. A lot of Vermeer vetoes as well. Not big surprises there. So yeah, this is ZeloT right here. And yeah, he is just the most aggressive Zerg out there. I think he put out some very high quality games in that previous round. Of course, everyone kind of playing someone that wasn't quite to their level, except for Snow playing against Scan, which I guess you could say that Scan isn't really to Snow level. Like, Snow is that next step up where he's a championship level player. But yeah, this here is not going to be a mismatch, what we're going to be looking at. I think, ZeloT has potential to beat absolutely everyone in the world. I think when you're a Zerg that's this aggressive, that is absolutely the case. But Royal, amongst all of our Terrans, I believe in ASL, he actually has the highest TVZ win rate outside of Flash. And specifically the season that he won, he dismantled all of these strong Zerg players. So that is kind of a big deal when you think about it, right? Like, he has very good builds. He knows exactly how to kill Zergs, how to abuse them. And he's almost like a Zerg sniper in some ways, even though he is good at the other matchups. I do think his other 2 matchups do fall a little bit short of how strong his Terran versus Zerg is specifically. But he is kind of a technical player as well, which means he can get caught off guard. Just something to keep in mind, right? Like, ZeloT, if he does something a little bit out of the ordinary, I could see him picking up a pretty quick victory. So here are the sets. These are both going to be best of 5s. We have set 1 here on Polypoid, set 2 on Neodark Origin, set 3 on Apocalypse, set 4 Radion, and set 5 on Vermeer. So for the opening, like, I guess some of these do play a little bit differently. Like, Vermeer has lots of gas on it for set 5, right? Set 4, Radion, that's kind of like almost our most standard map, maybe even more standard than Polypoid in some ways, because it doesn't have that raised ground natural type area. Apocalypse, I would say, is actually kind of the most different. You get that big containment area on the high ground, and it does have that additional mineral patch and the hidden gas, so we do see some players prefer to go mech on that map. Walled expansion is going to be a big thing to look out for here as well. See if ZeloT has any attacks that he is going to be trying to do against that, such as the 4 pool. I don't think so. He's not that type of Zerg. He's more of the aggressive Muta Zerg. So we're going to go ahead and get into this, guys. Game number 1 about to start. And here we go. And down here in the bottom right, we have Royal. And in the bottom left, we have ZeloT. Okay. So ZeloT versus Royal. You know, again, well, you can see that these guys actually are in the same team right now. I actually don't keep super close track of, like, their... I don't know. They were calling it StarCraft University before. I don't know if it's actually still labeled as that. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, I watch a ridiculous amount of the games that these guys play, but I don't pay actually that much attention to the inner workings socially of the scene, or like what little kind of self-organized teams that they join. I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me all that much. I really don't care too much, like what, you know, self-appointed team that they're on of streamers that like does things for content, because that's, I don't know. Here's the funny thing, right? I'm sitting here making StarCraft content for people, but for me, it's just about the gameplay. That's what I'm really here for, and the personal stories rather than the group dynamics, I guess. Although those are sometimes part of it, and when I know about that, I will let you know. Anyways, taking a look at this, this is a 9 pool straight up from ZeloT, right? So that's already a pretty aggressive opener. We'll see if this is a 9 pool with like a very quick layer as well. As far as this goes, look, the SCV coming out. This could be tricky because sometimes when you scout, like, you only scout the natural. By the way, the 9 pool, not a terrible choice against Royal, because Royal does go center 8 racks sometimes. He does have fast factory builds pretty often. So something like a 9 pool can kind of catch you off guard. Now, let's see if Royal actually goes in the main base. He does. He does. This is a big deal right now. So he's going to go up and see that it's a 9 pool. And this is going to allow Royal to not only slow down this expansion, but block the incoming rush, right? This is actually on this bottom right spawn. This is the only spawn that has a Marine, a Zergling tight wall in, where the Marine pops out on the inside of the wall in, right? So, like, you literally don't have to do anything except make sure you have 2 SCVs handy if they just dive on a depot, right? So this is the worst case scenario for ZeloT. Any other position, you have to pull multiple SCVs to try to hold position. Maybe there's going to be a hole that's really good for you, that type of thing, right? So yeah, worst case scenario right now for ZeloT. And we're gonna see, right, like he is diving kind of, but only for a moment. Like, he pulls back before any of the Zerglings are gonna pop. And now starting mining gas. So this is not a super quick layer. So overall, looking at these builds, it is not a very good or healthy spot here for ZeloT. That being said, like, he can rally pretty easily towards the natural base here of Royal, and that can make it a little bit hard for Polypoid. A strong Zerg player I respect once said that he feels like there are positional imbalances in this matchup, where when the Zerg can send their mutas directly to your natural, that's going to be really hard for Terran to hold on. The minerals are kind of on the edge, not completely, they're partially there, and it doesn't necessarily have like great positioning for those missile turrets. So we'll see if that type of thing comes into play here for ZeloT. I would imagine it will, but he's such an aggressive player, you never actually know. Now, it looks to me like he actually is skipping everything and getting speed. I think that's what's happening. Now, unfortunately for him, this is a pretty fast academy. Let's see if he can actually break through. Okay, he is just diving. You can see just how aggressive he is. Oh my god, I actually think he might be able to win this. Now, a drill through the Marines onto the ramp here by these SCVs. He pulls the Marines back in time. So very, very, very quick reactions, but there is a giga supply block here for Royal, which is a problem. Now, the Zerglings get shaved down a little bit. ZeloT pulling back. The command center finishes, which kind of brings Royal back in the green a little bit. He is still supply blocked right at this moment. But yeah, he's going to have to really be careful about this. Now, the Zergling's starting to get on top of these Marines a little bit. He's trying to force his way in, but the micro of Royal is strong. He's able to block all of that. And yeah, I guess there's not a lot left here for ZeloT, because now there's a bunker up. There's some SCVs blocking. ZeloT has almost no drones. And there goes the engineering bay up. So, you know, one racks of CAD builds are pretty darn safe overall. He had a lot of Marines. He pulled them back in time, and that's really what's important. But once again, ZeloT dives in. Royal, here's the crazy thing. Most good players here would be like, no, I got to stop making Zerglings to try to come back. And ZeloT is doubling down. Like I've said, this is what happens when a ladder Zerg becomes one of the best players in the world. Seriously. Like, I've talked about this a lot in ZeloTcasts, where like, and in various Terran versus Zerg casts, where it's like, if this was a B rank Zerg, the Terran might die, right? But if they knew it was a B rank Zerg, they would defend against it. So here you have Royal against ZeloT, and just endless lings, no drones. Obviously, looking at this on paper, looking at this from the observer point of view, if you just remake a complete wall in and hold position stuff and have some SCVs not mining, ZeloT loses because he just can't get any more damage. But at this point, he's done quite a bit. He's done quite a bit. Look at this. It's like a firebat trying to catch these 3 Zerglings. He's going to be able to keep these alive for a long time. You can see he's up here at 360 APM. It's really ridiculous speed there from ZeloT, just kind of keeping those alive, keeping Royal annoyed, seeing if he can get some more damage. Now, he has been able to drone up a little bit, and a lot of SCVs have died for Royal. So there are some issues here in Royal's position. The SCV going up for that scout, trying to figure out, like, okay, is there a Hydra's Den? Is there a Spire? And I'm going to be honest, I've been mostly watching the mini-map, so I actually didn't catch. It looks like the Spire is not... Yeah, okay, so we do get another zoom in on that. It is not done yet. He should have an engineering base started. So, yeah, there it is. It started right above his minerals. So he's getting ready for those Mutalisks. But this is a very tough position, losing this many SCVs. So here's what has to happen here. For Royal to recover from a position like this, he basically needs to build Marines, missile turrets, and SCVs nonstop for the next few minutes, and the harassment needs to be a little bit off from ZeloT. Because honestly, like, he's got an okay drone count, and if he applies pressure well, like, look at this. The SCVs are very, very low right now. Royal's overall supply at 36, and we know he has, like, maybe 10 bio units right now, something like that. So, like, you know, he's way below what he needs SCV-wise. Whoa, stimming 2 firebats pass. I almost didn't even mention. I didn't think 2 would make it. But the mutas pop, and he's able to deal with that. So, you know, you got to take these risks as Royal, try to get something done. Now, he's starting to make some missile turrets up here. But here's the thing. Like, he can't tech. He has to make SCVs. His SCV count is simply too low. So if ZeloT is killing SCVs, or he's killing missile turrets, or he's killing Marines, any of these things are going to make it really hard for Royal. But, like, Royal basically just needs to slowly but surely build up his defense and his economy once again. Now, ZeloT is taking 12 o'clock. This is not too uncommon from him to just kind of hide a random base. That's going to be a really hard one to scout. It is quite likely he'll go into Guardian Rush from here, but he could stay on pure Mutalisk. I think he's done the right type of damage where pure Mutalisk might be able to just finish this game off.
반대로 김지성은 많이 잡히면 안 돼. 초반에 어쨌든 저글링한테 피해를 조금 받았기 때문에 더 가난해지면 여기서도 안 되거든요. 자, 그리고 그다음에 이어지는 히드라.
So, this is a really good amount of turrets. And notice how you see the command centers basically blinking nonstop. You see missile turrets being built nonstop. This is the right way to try to deal with a situation like this. He's keeping his Marines in the most likely areas for anything to happen. Hydra's Den in the main base. That puts pressure on Royal right there. Right? Just seeing the Hydra's Den, it's like, well, now I got to watch out for Lurker Contain. Probably 8 months ago, the most popular thing was heavy Mutalisk harass into just a Lurker Contain. And it just, like, destroyed. But you can see that Royal, he did scan that, and he is starting to prepare for it. We have the add-on for the factory, and in fact, I believe that's another bunker he's making above his missile turret. So he's not really sure the timing of lurkers coming in. That's a defensive stance or step that he doesn't actually need right now, just to put that out there. So that if that is a secondary bunker, which I believe it is above his turrets, yeah, like that's super defensive. And again, I don't think he needs that. But what he does need to do is make sure, obviously, that he doesn't die and that a containment does not occur. Now, that's a lot of lurkers. 7 lurkers. Basically, once you hit about 4, Marine Medic can't really break out, right? Like, because, like, once you have 4, like, they might be able to pick one off, but 3 Lurker Spines coming in are just going to eradicate anything they hit, including medics, right? And this is kind of where the breakpoints start. 1, 2 Lurkers are super easy to kill for Terran. When you start getting up to 4, like, if there's 3, it's like, okay, well, when you get 7, it's like you literally can't even approach. You can't even approach at that point. Now, 1 siege tank on the high ground. The siege tanks are going to be totally crucial here. Evolution Chambers coming up. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder where he's going to go from here. He could go towards Ultra. He could go towards Hydra Lurker as well. Both seem reasonable from this position. But normally with Hydra Lurker, it's Hydra Lurker Defiler. Wow, I'm really not sure what I'm seeing here from ZeloT. Like, obviously he's going to get Carapace, but we just don't know what that second evolution chamber is. Is it going to get ranged or melee attack? You might look at this and think, well, certainly, you know, I want to get a ranged attack since I have all these ranged units. No, not necessarily. You know, the switch back into Zerglings and Ultras and things like that can be very, very strong in a situation like this where the macro is very, very low. The production structures are very, very low. An overwhelming amount of Zerglings with 1/1 would be very strong. And of course, if you go into Ultras, it really plays into that as well. Now, +1 for Lurkers is very good also, obviously. As soon as Lurkers have +1, they 2-shot Marines, like, straight up, no matter what, right? So, yeah, that's that definitely can be really, really good. Royal's done a pretty good job recovering, considering how much damage he took. He is going to have to kill some buildings that are his front, probably just his bunker. And he's going to have to micro really well coming out. You can see that ZeloT's still trying to make something happen. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to. The Lurkers get pulled back a little bit because he knows that Siege is going to be ready. You can see a lot of bunkers in here. They're not that expensive. And, you know, I mentioned before he didn't really need one of those bunkers, and I do stand by that. But, like, he even made a 3rd there, and you can't actually blame him because a lot of pros lose games refusing to make bunkers. If you think you might die, just make the bunker. It's not that much money, but we're in a game where every mineral counts because Royal took so much damage in the early game. You can see, still trying to scan, trying to figure out where he's at in this game. Royal's sure that ZeloT has another base. He just doesn't know where it is. And that can be painful. That can be painful. There's 3 hatches up there at 12. Royal has no idea where this is. Like, is he going to check top right? He might check 9. He might check 12, right? He's starting to think it could be top right main. It could be 9. It could be 12. Probably not top right natural. That's like getting to a point of insanity. But things like that can end up being tricky enough to work. So there is the top left main being taken. I kind of like that as that 4th base location. ZeloT right now just trying to slow him down. Okay, we see, I think I just saw Hydra speed there. Is that Hydra kind of had to reposition itself? Yes, he has Hydra speed. So now we know that it's going to be missile attacks in that other evolution chamber. So this is funny because it actually looks like Manzurg. Okay, Manzurg is something that my late wonderful friend in Control named. He used to go Hydra Lurker a lot as a macro player in this matchup. And just the thing is, it moves really well. And technically the counter is Siege Tank Marine Medic. But if you screw up even one engagement, the Hydra Lurker can just roll you over. Now, nowadays, you see a lot of Hydra Lurker Defiler, and that's super, super strong. You really don't see from the pro level, almost ever, just Hydra Lurker on layer tech. But that's not to say that it cannot work. If you have a bit of a macro advantage, this is one of the wonderful things about Broodwar. The hard counters aren't that hard for the most part, right? Like, technically, the unit composition that we see from Royal counters. But if you're ahead on macro a little bit, this actually could be a great choice. Like, if you win one engagement with this, you win the game, right? He'll never catch up on those siege tanks again if you win an engage. So we're going to see ZeloT getting ready to move in. He does have those 1/1 upgrades. I believe Royal probably has 1/1 right now, so probably even upgrades. Yep, he does have 1/1. Good job, Observer, checking on that. Man, we're coming down to one engage that's very likely to figure out what's going to go on this game. He has a ton of lurkers that side, too. Dude, he has so many units. Look at the supply. ZeloT 126 against 122 from Royal. ZeloT with a much bigger army. Now, are you supposed to actually attack in with this? I don't know. I don't know. It's been a while since I've played against this without defilers in the mix. Completely different unit composition, completely different types of strategies. It really is very much about hitting with everything at the same time. Royal, if he's on high ground, is going to make it a lot harder to do. You see some irradiates coming out as Royal starts to move forward here. Okay, we have the Muta's actually flying down with a lot of the lurkers. Now, the siege tanks are in position here and splatter. That's like about half of the lurkers that ZeloT has. That was a very bad engagement from ZeloT. A very bad engagement. Did he lose his mutas too? I was like kind of busy looking at specifically the lurkers there. A ton more lurkers being made. You can see the type of advantage that ZeloT has had through, you know, since he did a lot of damage with, what was it? The third Zergling attack? Yes, the first two failed, and then he's like, all right, this one will work. And it did. And now look at him. He's using an off comp that we never see. It's strategy we never really see at the pro level. And Royal's having a really, really hard time of it. I mean, eventually on the 4 base, there's nothing you can do. Oh my God, he's going to go drops. This is actually a really good follow-up. And Royal's ready for it. That's how good a follow-up it is. He's like, no, no, no. And here's the thing. You can actually kind of predict this. If you are scanning the main layer and it's not turning into a hive, the only reason it would not be a hive by now, the absolute only reason, because he hasn't just thrown all of his units away like 3 times, it would be because he's upgrading out of it, right? Otherwise, you would just buy it. It's just not that expensive. Now, here comes the drop, but Royal is heavily in position. I actually wish he would move those Marines back. Yeah, because you actually want the drop to come in at this point. Now, we might have a radiate on some of the overlords. All right, throws 1 down, and it does show that he was planning the drop. Going to drop everything out now. Taking a little bit of damage from that irradiate, and now the Queen's Nest goes down. Will he actually try to drop again? I think you actually wait. I think you wait a while and hope that he brings those Marines out of the base. Maybe even check again with another speed overlord later on. All right, so as you can hear from my co-casters here, they are really perplexed at the way that this game is going, right? Like, it's such a crazy situation. Both their supplies are getting really, really high. And the scaling on the siege tanks is better than the scaling on the Hydra Lurker. The siege tank, Marine Medic, Science Vessel, it is just better scaling. So as we get closer and closer to max supply, even though ZeloT has been in the lead and has had a good position, suddenly it's starting to whittle away a little bit, right? Because, like, when we have 12 tanks sieged up, man, how are you going to attack? Look at this. Now, ZeloT is going to try to attack, but this is only a portion of his army. He has a lot of army on the left. Comes up, tries to burrow, but, like, the siege tanks are spread really far back right now. Now, here's the flank. A very important moment. Wow. Just so many Hydras out here right now. And I think ZeloT is actually going to be able to end Royal's game here. Really, really crazy. Now, like I said before, this is not something, like, if he wins 1 battle, the odds of Royal being able to kind of scale back up to what he needs is very, very low. So he has 2 starports, he has 1 factory. Whereas for right now for ZeloT, we're working on 6 hatcheries pumping this stuff out. But I don't know. He'd saved 2 tanks, he saved 4 vessels. Maybe if Royal were to try to attack right now and got one of the bases, that could turn into a comeback. Right? I think so. It's just such a weird spot that we're in. You can see ZeloT's maintaining higher supply, which is normally just a death sentence for Protoss or Terran against Zerg. But he doesn't have the hive tech yet. So he has a lot of supply, but he's kind of like, he's hatchery man. Or layer man, or I'm not sure what to call it, but, like, hive is really the thing that makes Zerg win at the end of the game, right? Like, hive tech is the strongest late game tech that there is. The Defiler has no peers. So looking at this situation, he's on pure layer, he's on you know, he's Layer Man right now. It's similar to like Gateway Man from Protoss, where it's like, well, I mean, you can stay on Layer, but not sure if that's going to end up working out. Okay, so he's adding in Queens, which is like another funny thing that we see going on here. If the game goes another 2 minutes, he'll have energy for Spawn Broodling and be able to take out Siege Tanks. So there is something about that makes a lot of sense. Now, the reason why Royal is unloading right there at 12 o'clock, by the way, without going in, is because if he starts unloading up there, he knows that he's not going to kill many drones. It's just going to be an insta-pull and a ton of units walking up. Here, he unloads, stims, runs up. He's going to get way more damage he would have otherwise. But you can see just an attack move, the Hydras will easily clear this. Yeah, don't forget that Hydras actually have twice as much health as a Marine, right? So they are a little bit tanky. Again, more of a scaling thing than anything. So yeah, the Hydra's coming down, and he's going to be able to easily push this back. Another drop coming towards that main base. Not much in the main base. Maybe he can get a few drones there, maybe even a tech structure. Not sure what he would really go for. None of that seems super juicy, but yeah, a little attack move into that main base from ZeloT will clear that up with the Hydras once again. Right, that's kind of a funny thing. It's different comps have different reactions to dropships. Like anything like Hydra Lurker or Ultras, you can just attack move into dropships and they clear it. Whereas like a Ling Lurker Defiler, you actually have to micro and be careful about how you do that, right? So definitely diminishing returns of those drops from Royal. Now some irradiates go out on these lurkers as they start to move forward. Good spread of siege tanks out there in the middle, but we are on hive tech now, right? So like siege tanks start to fail against hive tech some. Dark Swarm is a great counter against them. Oh, these Hydras just kind of waiting. They see the command center fly in, and he's going to be able to pick that off. That's a very painful moment there for Royal. Unable to get his fourth base up and going. It's at 22 minutes right now. Just to note, in the next couple minutes, the natural gas of ZeloT should be running out. Actually, it's going to be a little bit longer than that just because the game was very aggressive at the beginning, so it might be closer to 4 minutes. But his main gas is dry at this point, which means, of course, 2 per run instead of 8. Now, some Spawn Broodlings come out onto these siege tanks, but still he's got an okay amount. He's got an okay amount of Marines behind. All the Broodlings do end up hitting, and the Hydralisk Swarm is just so high in number. Wow. Okay, well, gonna be able to push him back completely. And ZeloT's taking another base. Royal's unable to. Royal's run out of minerals in his main. His natural's almost dry. I think it's time for a GG. I think we're close to it a couple times already in this game, but Royal was able to push it this far, which is impressive. And this, again, this is kind of like a gangly way to try to finish someone off by ZeloT, but I actually do appreciate it quite a bit. Playing a slightly off meta strategy here where, like, just number-wise, you should be able to overpower your opponent. I kind of like it. It has a certain level of intelligence to it where it's like, okay, well, you know, Royal's trying to guess a few things you might do. He's like going more irradiate heavy, right? More vessels instead of more siege tanks. In this particular case, if he had gone 2 factory siege tanks and just had like 2 vessels, would have been much better than all the irradiates that he's cast. Much better. But like, how do you anticipate exactly this situation? It's very, very tough. So another attack coming up here from ZeloT. I don't think he's going to be able to last too much longer here. Royal, that is, of course. Royal with a counterattack, which is pretty darn strong. But he's going to lose this like last mining building, and it is time to infest a command center. Please, please, please go and infest this command center. Ah, he doesn't get it. GG is called, and ZeloT going to win game number 1. All right, so we will be going into game number 2 here. Of course, ZeloT just having won his first game. You know, that was, yeah, I think in a lot of ways it shows, like, it does show a lot of depth about StarCraft 1, and it shows how the metagame can sometimes be abused and how different levels of play work at different levels, right? Like Royal assumes that his opponent can't possibly keep making Zerglings. And the thing is, like, if you just keep 2 more SCVs off minerals, right, and hold position, you're gonna win. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That's not how that went down. So, anyways, yeah. I feel like I need a slightly better way to describe this, because I try to describe this sometimes when I'm casting games. I definitely describe it a lot while I'm streaming my own play. 4-pool. Okay, this is brilliant from ZeloT. This is brilliant. I'll talk more about what I was saying earlier. I have been on like the sickest call for everyone to start 4-pooling in this matchup at the pro level. So 4-pool guys auto beats Wallin. Okay, there was a period I stopped counting, but there was a period I was counting how many walled expansions Terrans were taking in this matchup, because I was like, this is getting a little bit wild. Ooh, and he's actually gonna do an 8 racks or a 9 racks or something. Oh no, he walls at the top of his ramp, so he's actually just won the game. Okay, so that's kind of funny, because as far as walls go, like this is actually pretty lucky by Royal and pretty unlucky by ZeloT, okay? Because I literally stopped counting at 17 pro games in a row of Terrans walling against Zerg. When it starts getting like that, you need to mix in some 4-pools to bring the percentage down, right? Because here's the thing. 4-pool is 100% win against wall, or let's call it 99.9, right? And then it like against other builds, it's like 1% win. That's right. So it's like if they're walling all the time, you need to mix in 4-pools. But here he scouted him so quickly because he went for engineering bay block, and he went for a wall on top of his ramp. This is a Zergling tight wall where the Marines pop out on the inside. ZeloT is dead. There is no coming back from this, okay? So, like, if you see the 4-pool coming before it's at your ramp, I am a firm believer it cannot win. It cannot win if you don't have, like, all your buildings out in the front and the Zerglings are destroying them, right? You have a wall like this, you're literally taking no damage. You don't have to make a bunker or anything. You repair a little bit, and that's it. And the Zerg is like, oh, I guess I lose. And there's not much to it either. This is not rocket science. So anyways, I want to once again reiterate, I'll keep track of it from here. How many times Royal walls? And he just happened to do this build this time. Because I think that ZeloT, like, this was actually good planning. This was excellent planning, because, like, everyone always walls. So, unfortunately for ZeloT, it does not end up working out. And I don't know if he's going to stay in the game and try to recover. Like, see how he's trying to break the wall? He's keeping these up here, repairing at least. He might have decided that forcing the repair and the lack of mining is worth losing some Zerglings. But it's so, like, there's not any good comeback potential. Like, do you start making drones? Do you expand? Do you make more lings? It is my firm opinion. And here's the thing, guys. I've been 4-pooled by pro gamers, and that's like how I pick up wins against pro gamers. Because if you just make Marines, and here, like, Royal's getting so fancy. He's such a fancy player. Notice how he's making a factory. Yeah, the factory can win too. Okay? Like, you can kind of do anything, but it's really straightforward. If you do nothing but make Marines and a command center and SCVs, and then you just attack move with like 6-7 Marines, it doesn't even matter if you lose them, because they had to make so many Zerglings, they can't be making drones, and you're making SCVs the whole time, right? So, like, numerically, they will just never catch up after the 4-pool if you hold it without taking massive, massive damage. So yeah, you can see his SCV's even alive. He's getting some good scouting. He's seeing how many drones are being made. I mean, when the Vulture comes out, you're going to have to make, like, a sunken, you know, that's going to cost economy and stuff. It's just, how do you catch up back to even? I think Royal's going to go to Starport, which is, and again, you can kind of do anything. It's like, like what was it? It was this match. It was like Leda versus Action, and it was on Eclipse in ASL years ago. And I remember, if I recall correctly, Leda went for a BBS, a Barracks Supply. Action stomped it, and I was like, so Leda's basically dead. To win, he would have to blindly guess what Action's doing like 4 times in a row and hard counter it all to have a chance to get back to even and win. And he actually did exactly that. No scattering or anything. He's just like, I think you're going to do this, and I think you're going to do this, I think you're going to do this. And he actually fought back and won that game, and it was like a crazy game. So you can, if you really want to go watch that Tasteless I Did cast, it was on Eclipse. I forget what season. Action versus Leda. There you go. Leda wasn't in that many seasons, so it's not that hard to find. But anyways, yeah, that's you can look on Wikipedia to find where it was, then Google that exact day on Africa TV's YouTube. Okay, anyways, with the 4-pool, it's worse than that, right? Like, you'd have to guess everything they're doing, and they'd have to like screw up control and maybe get supply blocked or something. I don't know. But you can see how like one Vulture is peeling him apart a little bit. He's going to have 2 Starport Wraith flying in. Honestly, I think as soon as the Wraiths start attacking, we're going to see ZeloT GG, because he's going to lose like every drone before he can get anything up. He has no bank. He has no economy. The Spire is too far off. So, you know, I've never tried this as a follow-up to kill a 4-pooler, but it definitely looks like it will work. And that's it. GG. And so there you go. Very, very well done. All right. We're going to get into game number 3. Again, I want to thank you guys for checking out ArtosisCasts. And I hope that you're enjoying the Premier Star League. I'm really testing out a lot of different ways to make this content right now, and I am reading any feedback that you leave in the comments below. So definitely do leave a like, leave a comment on what you're thinking. I know the audio is definitely not perfect. The video is definitely not perfect as well. I'm doing what I can with what I have to work with. Anyways, here we go, guys. We are going to get into here game number 3. Right now, tied up 1-1. And we're going into Apocalypse. So up at 12 o'clock, we have Royal. And in the bottom right, we have ZeloT. Okay, so again, I think that ZeloT's 4-pool was a great choice. He got very unlucky. Let's see if Royal walls in. Right? It's... What can you do? What can you do about this? Sometimes you will make a good call strategically, like in the overall sense of the word, and it will be the completely wrong call for that particular game, but it was blind on both sides, and statistically maybe it should have caught him and it didn't. And you know, that's just part of the RNG that exists in a game like this. Absolutely. Can be frustrating though, because where's this SCV going? Oh, he's actually walling the choke again. Okay, so he might have just looked at this and said, you know what, ZeloT's a 4-pooler. So he's actually twice in a row. Okay. Now, to be fair, walling there, if you're not going to tech, if you're just going to expand, is a lot weaker than walling the outside of the natural. So in some ways, the 4-pool might be working for ZeloT, right? Like, setting the pace of a game. Honestly, I was thinking in the back of my head, I was like, maybe he should 4-pool again and try to catch the wall. Here, this wouldn't work. This is a Zergling tight wall in where the Marine pops out on the inside. So there you have it. Like a good, well, we can say it's a good choice, but he's not 4-pooling here. So it's a choice. And the thing is, Royal does like some of these very teched out factory and starport openers, and that's what it looks like he's going to be going for here. Anyways. And yeah, I'm not overly surprised to see that from him. It is 2 games in a row. I think he was planning that in game 1 regardless. That's when you would do the engineering bay block as well as the wall and up your ramp. Like that's, and you can do that. Any map where you have a Zergling tight wall at your main base is pretty good for a build like this. And something that's been mentioned is that this map has an extra mineral patch. So things like 1 base builds here definitely they benefit in a way from that, right? Like your build is going to fit together a little bit, excuse me, a little bit better. All right. What are we going to see? Is it going to be like a 2-starport Wraith once again? Is it going to be like just, it could be like a Vulture drop. Honestly, it can be like a Vulture into an expansion. There's a lot of different ways it can go with one base tech. I've even seen some really crazy ones where like you might go like a Vulture. Actually, the craziest one I ever saw, and I believe it was Terror that did this. Terror, the Peruvian Terran, one of the strongest non-Korean players. I recall once there was a game, I think it was Terror that did this. Maybe it was Dandy, who is another great Peruvian Terran player. But anyways, Peru has a lot of strong players. But it was like a factory opener. I can't recall if it had a Wraith or not, but then it was into like 3 Barracks Stim Marine Medic. And like they actually killed Larva with it. And it was like, what? This is crazy. But you know, you can hide some wild stuff behind this type of thing against Zerg. Like sometimes it can be very, very hard to scout that. And if you're hitting before a critical mass of Mutalisks, anything could go against Zerg. It's not quite the same as Protoss where it's like they'll just make a certain amount of Dragoons and then everything gets held, or, you know, something like that. With Zerg, they don't really have a lot of counter potential on the lower bases. Like early on, Zerg is the easiest to screw up, for sure. You get any damage on Zerg early on in the game, and they're in a terrible, terrible spot. So anyways, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a Vulture drop into a Valkyrie rush. The Vulture drop, normally we have people rush to speed with a Vulture drop. Here it looks like he's skipping that, which I actually kind of appreciate. The speed upgrade definitely guarantees more drone kills, but it costs a lot, and it takes a long time. So this is going to make him a little bit more solid, I guess, against whatever Zealot's follow-up will be, right? So, like, maybe he gets less damage, but much easier to defend the next portion of what's going to occur. So he might be looking at it and saying, well, your economy is already going to be kind of low. You already had to make a sunken. I already had some vultures out, right? Like, even if he kills 3-4 drones, your economy is going to be so weak with your aggressive build that, you know, just a solid defense might win from there. So right now, by the way, that is a third hatchery being made at the natural there for ZeloT. Not a big surprise against any sort of factory opener. That's generally what you want to do. It helps to block, and you don't ever want to take a quick third against something like this. Now, out comes the vulture drop. So look, he has 3 vultures here, and actually that's a pretty decent drill. If he had killed one, it would have been really good, because it does take 3 vultures to one-shot a drone because of instant healing on drones. So yeah, he is going to be able to kill a fair amount. That was a pretty high amount of kills, even with a very quick reaction. I think it was really based off of where he dropped the vultures. If you try to be sneaky and drop them in the side of the base, ZeloT would have lost almost nothing, because he, you know, saw it coming with that original Overlord. So to just leave it in the drop or the retreat path to the natural where there's a sunken makes a lot of sense. Now look at this defensive setup. Goliaths with no upgrades, Valkyrie plus Marines with no upgrades. Crazy looking defense. Haven't really, this looks like a box art fight almost. Like, look at this anti-air. What a weird looking thing, but it makes a lot of sense. I'm getting some chills. I can't lie about it anymore, guys. Like, that is a wild looking, different looking defense. If you try to jump on the Valkyries, even without upgrades, the Goliath plus the Marines are going to deal a ton of damage to the Mutas. If you try to target the Marines and Goliaths, which aren't that hard to kill, the Valkyries are going to get extra volleys on you, and you're going to be in trouble. So I gotta say, I like a lot about what we're looking at here. All right, another barracks being made. More Valkyries are coming up. Are we not making missile turrets? Are like these our missile turrets right now? It seems that way, because the eBay is not even done at past 7 minutes into the game, which is I've really never seen a build quite like this. The fact that he's utilizing just unupgraded Marines and unupgraded thus far Goliaths as his turrets, right? Because you need turrets with Valkyries. It almost looks better. Honestly, this looks better than the turret-based Valkyrie Rush. Because all those units are still usable, right? Like the Goliaths and Marines, I believe right now he's getting Goliath range, I think. And if he's going to have a small group of ranged Goliaths in with his Valkyries and his Marines and medics with stim. Oh no, it was siege mode, so never mind on that. But still, you know, if you try to dive onto the Valkyries, the Goliaths are going to be dealing full damage. You know, you don't have to have the range upgrade to make them into a pretty solid anti-air. So some Hydras moving across the map. Nice scan going down. He catches him making a lot of drones. So that's, notice how he cancels the bunker. You just check the natural for what's coming out. There you see drones. So you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be attacked right now. Right? This is fake. What you see with the Hydras, that's fake. He wants him to defend. This is why he's moved up. He wants to pick things off, poke, make him be like, oh no, I might be getting all in. But the scan at the natural, seeing the drones pop out, tells the real story to Royal. So he's able to cancel some of his defensive structures. See, this is an important concept, I think, that I've been thinking about a little bit lately, about how Zerg and Protoss players, while they're macroing up, they try to act like they're going to attack you. Whereas with Terran, a lot of the times when you're macro amp, you're already on the defense, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to do that type of thing. But yeah, because Terran's kind of more timing attack oriented, right? So it's more like a single player mode for Terran in that way. Here, it's like he's faking it. He's like, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to attack you, these Hydras. No? Oh, crap. And now Royal has read into this situation just about perfectly. He's chasing these Hydras back. He's got siege mode. He's going to get into a good position. His anti-air is unbelievable. The Goliaths are going to be reasonably tanky here against the Hydras as well. I love this from Royal. What a weird and cool build. I haven't seen this build in ASL or SSL or even in any of the latter games. This is new to me, 100% new to me. What an interesting play here from Royal. And you can see, like, he did pick off, like, a rallying siege tank, so that's kind of nice. But I think ZeloT's just dead, straight up. Even though Zealot actually has okay-ish supply for this point in the game, like, none of his supply does anything against what he's against. Like, this is a perfect timing push. This is a perfect timing push. Look at this. Now, the Hydras come in for a flank. They're trying to pick off some of the siege tanks, but the mutas are all being killed. The Marines and medics are going to finish everything else off. Dude, what a game right there. What a game for sure. Wow. Really, really well played here from Royal. Damn, that's a cool strategy. All right. All right. Let's get ready here for game number 4. All right. All right. So we're going to be getting into game number 4 here. So right now Royal does lead 2-1. By my estimation, originally I was thinking like maybe he probably should be leading 2-1, obviously. He's walled his main base twice. I did like the 4-pool idea from ZeloT. He had the balls in game 1 to just keep making Zerglings and find his way to victory there. Is he going to be able to pick up another map? Or are we going to see Royal just run away with this series right here, right now, and go to the finals of the first round of the Premier Star League Season 1? Yeah, it's hard to say. I think ZeloT still has a lot of fight left in him. You know, well, hold on a second. I'm gonna talk about this as we start into Radion, our most probably standard map at this point. All right, in the bottom right, we have ZeloT. In the top left, we are going to have Royal. There he is. Okay. So, a lot of people historically have really liked trying to liken StarCraft to chess for the deep strategic thought in it, for you know, like maybe the quality of the game, the longevity that we might see within the game. I don't like that as much, right? Because chess is both a game of perfect information, and chess is also turn-based, okay? And there's nothing perfect that you can show about StarCraft compared to another game, right? Like nothing is a perfect lineup of, oh, it's just like this. But I've liked it when I've heard people mention that it's kind of like poker. I heard that one time a long time ago, and I kind of stole it for myself. It is kind of like poker in a way, right? The incomplete information aspect. You know, there's definitely the meta game of, you know, playing with face cards or whatever, right? But then you can also go all in with your offsuit connectors and be able to win with that very aggressive play, whether it's a bluff or not. But yeah, I kind of want to put that out there because I feel like as far as a poker game goes, ZeloT is playing excellently. It has not worked, and it will not always work. There is a certain level of volatility involved in playing like that. But I think the biggest risk is in taking no risks. This is definitely something I have learned over the years. You know, like I always kind of look at it as like, if you play the perfect game, you can never lose. And it's like, okay, in theory, yes, but only Flash has ever been able to come anywhere near that. And even he will mix in risky plays from time to time. But yeah, I think it's like, it's an important thing. It's like, well, you're not going to win every game, but you can, if you play intelligently, cultivate a certain type of image. And I think without a doubt, ZeloT is someone that has a certain type of image that will play well for him for years to come. The better he gets at macro type plays, but maintains a similar type image to what he has right now, is such an aggressive Zerg. Like, look, we don't have a wall here. And as I told you guys, I literally counted like 17 games in a row before I stopped counting of pro Terrans walling in. And you can see Royal is playing the player, so kudos to him for that. But like, look, if this was like Hero, if this was Queen or something, I bet you Royal would be walled in, and it would just be safer and better. Here, this opens up a lot of things. The drone just scouted, he sees the command center, and he's going to look at this and say, okay, well, I mean, there are speedling tactics that could work here. Will he go for it? I don't know. But if he kills this scouting SCV reasonably early, there is a real chance that he just pops out a bunch of speedlings, runs in, does a ton of damage, gets way ahead, maybe wins the game off of it. Anyways, I mean, there's just so much. There's the infinite rabbit hole of if this, then that, that exists within StarCraft. And then on top of that, execution quality and things like that. Now, this is cool. You see that he's making a sunken right now. He actually doesn't have vision of the incoming Marines. So it's really important that he's making that sunken, because if you only have drones and these 4 Marines appear, you're dead. Now, he actually runs all the way out with the SCV. Back at home, you can see that this has been consistent Marine production. This is actually the exact build that I use in almost every Terran vs. Zerg that we see from Royal. And I want to talk about that for a minute, okay? So, 1 Rax Academy expansion, continual Marine production throughout. So that would be like a 3rd depot before the command center finishes. It's basically the safest opener. It's a really good ladder build, because so many Zergs get so aggressive. So this kind of gives you enough Marines, it gives you a quick enough academy that everything, like if you scout reasonably well, you're safe against everything. And the fact that Royal is using this specific super safe build against the most aggressive Zerg, someone that I've heralded many times as this is what happens when a ladder Zerg becomes pro gamer level. Like, it makes so much sense. I think that Royal is playing strategically with his overall choices of builds, his choices of building placements, things like that. This is one of the stronger series that I've ever seen. Walling in his main base twice, catching the 4 pull once there. This build here on the most standard map, he's doing like the most kind of defensive opener that you can get. It's really well done by Royal. And this is part of the reason why it's hard to be on top of the world as an aggressive player. Right? Because if you hit someone like Royal that has basically nailed how you're playing or how you generally play, and we see ZeloT running into that, doesn't this feel a little bit like a brick wall? Even though ZeloT is someone that we consistently see beat the top players in the world, you can see Royal here is just putting out this absolute S-class performance of countering his strategies. Okay, enough of that. We actually have some action starting up now. There was a little bit of back and forth with Marines walking out. He's going to have his range done really quickly, which will allow him to move out in the map a little bit more. ZeloT with a lot of mutas here. Going to start flying in, seeing if maybe he can get some picks. He does have about 7 mutas there. Yeah, there it is. 7, of course, the number you need to one-shot an SCV, so there could be some diving situations here that'd be strong. By the way, that third base is a very uncommon base for Zergs to take. Uncommon enough that Royal might not find it for a while. I know it's right nearby, and you think, well, that's the natural third. No, not for Zerg. For Zerg, like 6 o'clock could be good, bottom left could be good, top right could be good. It's not that that one's bad. You can kind of take any base as your third base as Zerg because you get map control early on. But yeah, see, I told you 6 could be good. That would be a more likely if you're looking to play a 3-base game, that's the best base. If you're looking to play a 4-base game, it might be bottom left natural would be technically the best. That might be his next scan is bottom left natural. We'll try to keep an eye on that. Okay, another scan just occurred, but I think it was at the, I believe it was at the natural expansion. That would normally be, you're trying to check if they're making mutalisks or what. Okay, that's a very fast hive. That's a very fast hive. I don't know if he was waiting for the scan to hit to start that hive. I don't think so. But yeah, anyways, and the way that Royal's moving the Marines, by the way, it feels like he thinks the expansion might be in the top right, the way he's moving these. Normally, at this point, you'd send 1 Marine up to check. Excuse me. Right now, we have the mutas just kind of dogging these Marines a little bit. All right, and armory coming up. Okay, that's exactly what you need here. Because when by the way, when the hive is that fast, it's almost always going to be a Guardian Rush from ZeloT. Well, just the hive that fast in general. That's how you do a Guardian Rush, is you try to get the Guardian Rush hitting somewhere in between 2 and 4 Valkyries. That's if your opponent has good info. By the way, he did get the +1 carapace as well, which is something ZeloT really likes to do. It helps against Valkyrie play. And look at this. He crushes the Marine Medic. And this was a mistake by Royal to be that far out on the map. It feels like he doesn't realize that it's a Guardian Rush, which it's hard to read, but something that's really important to know is that ZeloT is by far the best Guardian Rusher in the world. Like, I have casted a lot of games of him even beating Flash on this channel with that. I personally have played against his Guardian Rush so many times. Like, I think I've played his Guardian Rush 7 or 8 times, and it is unbelievably brutal. He is so fast with it. And if you lose any Marines like we just saw, he normally runs away with the game at that point. What happens is you don't quite hit the critical mass you need. You need to maintain your Marine Medic so that you have so much damage underneath your Valkyries that you can eliminate the army. Because it basically comes down to 1 engagement most of the time. You can see he puts a little bit of damage. You can't lose these Valks. You can't lose them. 1's down. See, the thing is, all these can be brought back to full health by making them into Guardians. So that damage isn't as valuable as it looks like. Once the Guardians have started morphing, the damage is very valuable because there will be a lot of mutas that aren't morphing. Well, he's using those still for harassment for the most part. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's picking off a few mutas here and there, which is kind of nice. You see the Hydras starting to come up. Those are like for tankiness and picking off Valkyries. There's a scan down there. Gonna go ahead, kill off this muta. Micro's against it for some reason. And there's the Guardians. Look at how far back he's morphing the Guardians. He wants to make sure Royal can't get underneath him during it. Wow, that's a lot of damage right there. And that's now very permanent damage. He might morph some of those very hurt ones into Guardians, but he does not have a lot of gas right now, as you can see. Still some pickoffs. He has killed a couple Overlords. That's annoying. More Marines coming down, as well as those Valkyries. This is a crazy situation. Now, looking at the actual army sizes, I believe Royal's army, if it's all together, wins slightly here. Oh, I love the one Devourer in there. The splash damage of it. Well, it's not splash damage, but it's splash acid spores. The acid spores increase the amount of damage you take per hit on the Valkyries. So that's actually very, very helpful. And that's an AoE. And yeah, it's Devourers are actually a pretty good support unit, but they are terrible alone. So we have a good amount of Valkyries. He needs to get his Marines and Medics with his Valkyries. What am I looking at here? You need to. It has to. It's basically death ball. You're playing a StarCraft 2 battle at this point. You need every single unit you have fighting at exactly the same time. Sitting back like this, maybe he's going to try a flank. Honestly, I don't think that's the right play. I think you just put everything together, and then the Valkyries can't be targeted down, and they hit the break point where they just explode everything in the air, and then you win. So here, he's trying to flank. Let's see if this is going to work. Maybe he just crushes. Okay, comes in with those Valks, and you can see everything dying really, really quickly right there at the front. But the Marines flanking are doing a reasonable job against these Guardians right now. The Valkyries, unfortunately, not targeting. And look at that. The reinforcements coming up as well. You can't tell me. You can't tell me he wouldn't have won that engagement if he had all of his units together at the same spot. That turned out to be very close, but he lost the top half kind of quickly, and then the bottom half ended up falling, especially with the reinforcement flank. Valkyrie's not really targeting the right thing. He had the right stuff in the wrong place. The flank was just too fancy. Sometimes people are too fancy. Really. Well, he's gonna, try to do something here. He has some wraiths being made. I guess if you can target down the Hydras. The thing is, if this build falls apart a little bit, there is still a little bit of wiggle room for Terran. Did I just see a Lurker Egg? Because that's actually a great follow-up to this. If you just, because they don't really have anything. They don't have science vessels. They're trying to make anti-air, like Valkyries and stuff. Yeah, and then you make Lurkers, and yeah, this is it. This is it. He's going to GG. For sure. Yeah. Okay. And that's going to be it. GG. Really well done. Very impressive win there from ZeloT. I think Royal made a mistake having his units too far out of the map, and then having the flank that he was trying. There's not a reason to flank there. It's all about having the muscle to maintain your army size while the Valkyries do their damage slowly. So a nice win there. Royal taking off his headset. We're going to game 5. Let's get ready for it. All right, we are getting ready for game number 5 right now. ZeloT. He has come back. He's come back, and honestly, I think he's choosing his strats really well. So is Royal. This is just a very good match, I guess. There's no more I really need to say than that. I mean, you guys have been watching it. This is a really, really, really good match. Very tight. Really feels like it could have even gone very one-sided in either direction as well, right? I could have absolutely seen a 3-0 here from Royal, and I could have seen as well like a 3-0 from ZeloT, honestly. All right, let's do it. Let's get into game number 5 here on Vermeer. I think the first time we're seeing Vermeer this season. Okay, here we go. Top right, we have ZeloT. Bottom right, we have Royal. Vermeer. I feel like this map isn't getting as much use as I would like to see it. Definitely a very comfortable map, a very kind of standard 4-player map. I think it gives a lot of really fun games. I love the terrain around the double-sided ramps that are kind of towards the middle, as well as the actual middle area of itself, which is wider than it looks. When you're moving armies through it, you're like, oh, this is actually, it's pretty big. You can move stuff through there pretty quickly. So, yeah, I think Vermeer is a great map, but Yeah, I don't know. Radion is a really good map as well, and so is Polypoid. These are three of the absolute best maps that we've had made in a long time. I want to add Citadel to that list, but it seems like Citadel got a little bit good for Terran at that point. A lot of people were saying that, so... I definitely like Citadel, but like everyone vetoed that against me all the time in tournaments and whatnot. Understandable, because that's like my go-to pick anyways. But I liked that kind of layout as well. Okay, so we have a 9 pool here again from ZeloT, and no wall at all from Royal, so that'll make the 9 pool a little bit better than it would have been otherwise, but it not necessarily super good. We'll see if Royal scouts it quickly. Sometimes if you miss the Lings with the scout, it can turn into a weird situation where you have 1 or 2 Marines, normally 2, if you missed the scout and your command center started and then the Lings show up and you're like, oh no, and sometimes you have to cancel. But he is scouting in the right direction, which normally you do. You just scout in the same way of your natural. Like on most maps are rotationally symmetric, so your natural points towards a main base, where there's like for instance here, the best Overlord scouts are clockwise, right? Because you immediately get on top of your opponent's natural to scout everything with your Overlord. And so you want to do the opposite of that with Terran, because if they see you right away, you want to see them right away, basically, right? You don't want them to have more information than you, because if they are Ling rushing, then you're really screwed. So yeah. Not a surprise that he scouted ZeloT here. He is making a bunker right away, and this is actually a completely fine way to deal with something like this. You are going to need to make up to 3 Marines and then your command center, and he might stop Marines at that point. So you never know if something crazy will happen. The thing is, ZeloT is really aware of these types of things. So there's 1 Marine in the bunker, I believe, and 1 Marine with 2 hold position SCVs on the ramp. Honestly, I think you just load them in the bunker and you can leave the SCVs there. Just for a moment. And anyways, he sees what's going on. Gonna go down, make that command center. And I believe he has 3 Marines at this point. And we'll see where Royal wants to go from here. And of course, on ZeloT's side, his layer is not going to be particularly fast, and he's already playing against a bunker. So the odds of him going speedling should go drastically down since there's a bunker. But because Terran might defend less after making said bunker, there is that mind game of going for the Lings anyways. Now look at this. This bunker, this depot rather, chokes up the area. Going speedlings at this point would be the worst crap in the whole world. It would be so wretchedly terrible. Of course, ZeloT already did that once and won. So you never know. You never know, but I have to point these things out. It's my job here. It's just imagine like anything standing here is going to just disrupt any Zerglings coming in. I don't think he's going to make another Zergling. Like I think he's going to go straight up to his spire and just see what he can get done with that. This is such a defended position right now. I think playing an aggressive game from here is not smart. Like with the mutas, it can be fine, right? Just fly your mutas straight down and harass those minerals. Yeah, okay. Although there is very good turret placement that can be had at this particular natural. There's there's very good like 4 and 5 turret setups that you can do. Single Marine on the front. I kind of like that, actually. Kind of like that. Add a little bit of extra damage on. A lot of Marines on the ramp. So, like, he is... Guys, he's so prepared for Massling right now. It's like I don't want to call it paranoid, but, like, when you look at where his Marines are standing, Massling literally could never kill him. There could be no extra drones since the 9 pool, and he would be able to get SCVs in front of those Marines before he dies. So Royal is invincible right at this moment in the game, I would say, as long as his reactions are very fast and his micro's good, obviously. But like that's, everything. That's every pro, every game trying to do that. All right, a scan goes down. He sees the timing of that spire. He sees a very regular amount of drones. Little bit of a push out there with the Marine medic. I think he's read this situation correctly. Yeah, going up to 3 racks there as well as the engineering bay. He will be starting that +1, getting range very, very quickly here as well. And this is the type of game, because it did open with that 9 pool that didn't really do anything, where a 3 racks follow-up is really, really good. If you just make units non-stop here and get your upgrades, you can kind of push out a little bit, and it really forces your opponent to make a decision. Are they going to kind of go all in on killing your Marine Ball, or are they going to say, okay, he's going to play more set back, and I can still make drones? So range shouldn't be done quite yet, but the mutas are coming. Range will be done relatively soon, I think. Yeah, now the mutas are they're just dogging a little bit, right? Like they're looking, seeing, okay, are the Marines going to be out of position a little bit? Can I snipe them? See, not a ton of drones there, but enough you know there's not a bunch of lings on the map. And of course, seeing 2 creep colonies there. He knows he can't really counterattack. He's got to stay home. Because if you try to attack with this much and he has 2 sunks, then units popping out of his hatcheries will help him to defend the push.
계속해서 체크해주고 있죠. 네. 김지성. 이 자체가 지금 긴장감이 흔히 말 쩝니다. 아까 본 장면. 인구수 48 대 58. 자, 스팀 계속 먹게 하면서 저글링과 함께.
All right, so ZeloT brings in his lings and kind of sacrifices them, trying to get some kills. He does pick off like a fair amount of Marine Medic there. Ooh, very good glaives right there. Here's the thing, guys. He's on 2 bases. This reminds me of some builds I've seen Action do in the last year or so, where you're kind of all in on Mutalisk control. Like, he's making nothing but mutas. I guarantee there's an upgrade on the way. Probably attack, but it could be armor. But like, if Terran just doesn't overextend here, like if they just keep scanning, like right now, he's probably not 100% sure that there's not a 3rd base, but he's maybe suspecting it. There's so many mutas out right now. Now the muta's going to fly into the main base. Now this is going to be a very powerful move. He's going to be able to kill a fair amount of SCVs. He's going to see what's going on. Okay, double starport he sees. I don't think he knows whether or not there's going to be an armory or not. Lifts the command center. That's so that you can actually get down there. That's actually a good move in these situations because everything is blocked off so badly. And ZeloT actually micros pretty well and kills off quite a bit and going to pull back. There's just a bit too much Marine Medic here. Yeah, this is really hard for ZeloT. Yeah, that +1 helping a lot as well. Yeah, and he did get that +1 attack. That's not going to help him against the Valkyries that are going to be making now, though. Now flies back in. He's denying a lot of mining here in the main. This is kind of coming down to an interesting position. I feel like... Ooh, that's a lot of sunken. So he's like waiting for Royal to try to counterattack him. He's really diving on this main base. Is he going to get that before the Valkyrie comes out? Oh my God, he did. I can't believe that. He just happened to choose the right starport. But he's losing all of his... Oh, he's losing all of his mutas. So much damage right there. Killing the starport's pretty big because now it's only 1 Valkyrie at a time. But it is not looking... Well, there's no mining in the main. Oh, he's flying over the missile turrets. Oh, that rally's really, really bad. Nothing in the bunker. Yeah, the Zergling's trying to take out that bunker pretty quickly. The Muta's flying back in. We actually have an insane situation. He dives onto the Valkyrie and doesn't quite get it there. It does get pulled back. The bunker gets saved in the natural as well. Crazy game right now. ZeloT is like on the brink of death, by the way. To make this really, really clear, he has nothing going on other than Mutalisks. So he still has to get in here and do damage. The onus is on him. And there's no mining, so like that is a big deal. But he needs more than that. He needs more than that. Because Valkyrie's growing in number will end up winning the game for Royal. Now he starts to engage. He kills the Valk. He loses a lot of mutas. Only 5 mutas remain in this stack. It was a lot bigger a moment ago. Oh, that's not even enough to kill the SCVs. Okay, a few more coming in. Another Valkyrie is out, unfortunately, for ZeloT here. He tries to dive. Okay, he's going to GG, and no big surprise there. That's the way that you're going to have to do it. So Royal going to advance to the finals, and that means that ZeloT will await the loser of Art User and Snow for that other match. Congrats to Royal. Very well played.